Hey, I'm Brandon Steele. Welcome to Lootpress. Here today with my good friend Doug Skaff, running for Secretary of State of the state of West Virginia. Got an election coming up May 14th, and Doug is down here in Beckley for Future Forward. We got a lot of stuff going on down here in Raleigh County right now with Future Forward, the Chamber of Commerce, and all the Meet the Candidates events. And wanted to take this opportunity to catch up with my good friend. Served in the legislature together since 2019. Of course, Doug's got a little bit more history than I do, but
few elections under my belt. That's right.
Yeah, got a couple. But just wanted to take this opportunity to get together with Doug and talk to him about running for Secretary of State and the issues that he's ran into and his vision for West Virginia going forward.
Well, the first thing, Brandon, I'll tell you, it's a lot bigger state than I thought. You know, traveling this state, you put a lot of mileage on. You got to get some new shoes. It's fun getting out, as you know, during the campaign, meeting the people. That's the best part. You know, we get up there and everybody argues and this and that, passing laws, but meeting the people and the campaigning is what I enjoy. And I get to go outside of Kanawha County for the first time, where I've only ran in Kanawha County. Now I was just in Martinsburg, I was in Harpers Ferry and Shepherdstown and Beckley and Parkersburg this Thursday, just constantly moving around the state, getting to see how different this state is. Think about it. You know, you got a lot going on down here in Raleigh County and Beckley and movers and shakers down in Bluefield and stuff going on, in Charleston, and then you get to the Eastern Panhandle, that's like a whole different place over there. Southern West Virginia, you know, with a lot of people with the coal industry the way it is, and things are changing down there. We just got 5 different regions of the state, and it's not one size fits all. So when running for Secretary of the State, you know, you got to listen to the concerns and the needs of the people in all different regions and realize it isn't one shoe fits all. That's for sure.
No, it's really not. I mean, you look at, you know, Weirton and Wheeling down to Welch. You've got a completely different world.
That's right.
And completely different worldviews, and folks that from people that live right across the bridge from Maryland to people that live right across the bridge from Kentucky.
Different issues, different views, different way. I mean, think about it. When we served in the legislature, we had 100 different legislators, 100 different perspectives, 100 different opinions and views, and they're elected by 100 different groups of people.
Yes,
and they really are. They're all represented by the people in that district, and so you don't really appreciate where everybody comes from until you get a chance to go out there and really travel the state.
Right. Well, I want to talk to you today about running for Secretary of State. This is something that, you and I knowing each other for as long as we have. You and I talked about this back September, October, of last year, that you were going to run. And, I think everybody knows you and I are friends, regardless of political differences in the past.
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. You come with different ideas. Problems become opportunities when the right people come together. Yeah, it's amazing. You have odd bedfellows. They come together all the time and they work together. They all have the same passion and the love for the state. They have a different way of getting there.
Right.
And when you get those ideas, and it's amazing how, the sausage is made up there at the State House when everybody comes together, different ideas. But at the end of the day, we actually do get some stuff accomplished.
Yes. So we got into an interesting place here in West Virginia where this Republican primary is probably the most important Republican primary in state history. Going back to the foundation.
It's true.
I can't think of a more monumental primary on the national, the state, and the local level. Like even here in Raleigh County, talking about sheriff and circuit judge and things like that, it just seems like that, too many times in politics we use the term crossroads. Man, we're at the roundabout. We are at the roundabout right now.
We're on the move. West Virginia's on the move. And here's the telling thing is you have contested primaries. Republican primaries. Think about the day when we couldn't even find enough Republicans to even be on the ballot. The days of the Democrats controlled everything, and there would be 3 or 4, and the primary was the race in the Democrat. Now, there's barely any Democrats that fill the ballot. There's Republican contested primaries, and you would assume that whoever wins these Republican primaries, they go on to be the eventual the person who wins the seat.
Right. I think in probably 90% of the state, whoever wins the Republican primary is going to win the general election.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely.
I mean, look at it, governor for the first time. You know, in 8 years, we'll have a new governor, new U.S. senator for a long time. That's been held by Senator Manchin forever. Congress is going to be different. So West Virginia, not just federally, but then state. And look at the turnover. What would you say, about 20%? We have new legislators in the House of Delegates, maybe 20, 25% each year?
Yeah, probably 20 to 25% each year. And now, based on what I'm seeing, we're looking at a potential 30 to 35, 40.
And like that 60-day session, it's like a re-education. You know, the first 45 days, they're just starting to fill each other out. It's like a boxing match, like 15 rounds, and you get to that 13th round, it's like week. You know, you got 2 weeks left, and they're just people getting confident in themselves, so they stand up and they speak, and they feel good about themselves, and is that guy? I never even met that guy before. Next thing he was up speaking and yelling about something. So
it's getting you fired up about something, right?
It's comical, but it's good. That's the beauty of our state.
Yes.
And you know, I see down here in Raleigh County, you know, you got different people running for sheriff, different people running for board of education, different people running for the magistrate. I mean, there's just tons of signs. And the main thing for Secretary of State, why Secretary of State, people ask me, is because I love the election process. I like you. I just love being involved. But we have an elder population in the state of West Virginia. We got to get our youth involved.
Right.
If we don't get our youth engaged, and as Secretary of State, one of the missions of mine is to get into the classrooms, educate these high school students why it's important to exercise your right to vote, get them registered at an early age, get them involved, let them be poll workers or volunteer with campaigns or hell, run for office. You know, we just want to get people engaged in the process at an earlier age.
Well, in talking about that, you know, one of the things that, you know, you and I have dealt with you know, being in the legislature since 2019, we've passed scores of bills that dealt with election security, motor voter, you know, things like this. And, you know, I look at the current Secretary of State who's moving on, running for governor and leaving, who's been a big part of that. His staff's been a big part of that. And I look at the folks in the race of, you know, on the Republican side of who's running for Secretary of State. Tell me, from your standpoint of being in the legislature during that time period when we got concerned about that, you know, a lot of times, Doug, I would even sit there and think, is this really a problem in West Virginia? And now that, you know, the stories that we're seeing of, you know, stuff coming out of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona.
No, it's real.
It's right here. It's right here in southern West Virginia. You know, so where are you at on these things?
So, number one, safe, secure, free elections for all. Safe and secure. We have an opportunity right now to lead the nation. You know, Marshall University is getting this new cybersecurity school down there. I want to partner with them. I've already talked to them, partnering with them. Lead the country and lead the nation on safe, secure elections. You have to be on the forefront. People are always going to try to find a way to skirt the system, scam the system, or cheat. Make it as easy as possible for people to vote and hard as heck for them to cheat. That's number one. Safe, secure elections. It can happen. We got to prevent illegals from not only coming into our country and taking our jobs, but preventing illegals from voting in our elections. That's something that should be near and dear to our heart, not only as Americans, but West Virginians. And that's why it's so important to me to get people out to exercise their right to vote. It's a right that we have. Get out and choose the leaders of tomorrow. But you got to keep the election secure. You got to clean up those voter rolls regularly. You can't just wait and do it every 20 years. Current Secretary of State's done a great job of doing that, but you got to continue to do it as every year, you know, every couple of years. But I'll be the first to tell you, I've never worked in a county clerk's office. I've never ran an election before, but I know what you do in business is you surround yourself with great people that know how to do it. You have 55 county clerks across the state. The last thing the Secretary of State needs to do is go in there and pretend like they know everything. You need to give them the tools and resources they need to be successful. And as a former legislator, you know what it takes because you got to allocate money and resources. So I think to be a good Secretary of State, you got to be able to know and understand how the legislature works, how that you allocate money and how to ask for money, be able to communicate, and be able to work with everybody. You know, I look at the Secretary of State's office kind of like a referee. Okay, we get so caught up in the R or D and whatnot by your name, but the bottom line is you should encourage people to just register to vote, regardless of their party affiliation. Just exercise your right to register to vote. Number one. Number two, then get out and vote. Just get out and vote in the process. Be a part of the system. I always say, you know, if you don't vote, then you can't complain, right?
Right.
Everybody wants to complain to this vote. Did you vote? No, I didn't vote. But they want to be the first to complain. So I think safe, secure elections, number one. That's only 25% of the office. That's the glamorous part of the office, Brandon. That's what people don't realize. That's
the other part I wanted to talk to you about is, My dealings as an attorney with the Secretary of State's office is generally on the business side.
The business side.
And looking at, the programs that you and I have both had a hand in of putting in place to the one-stop shop. I mean, that in creating that to where, when I sit down with a client to start a new business and, we're putting this thing together, it's a 30 to 45 minute appointment where I'm going through, and walking them through that process and helping them as an attorney make those decisions. But when you look at the legislation that you and I, from a bipartisan standpoint at the time, put it into place, talk to me about, one, you're a big business owner. You're somebody I've always respected from a business owner standpoint of somebody that's ran successful businesses, employed a lot of people, signed the front and back of paychecks. Talk to me about the business side of the Secretary of State.
That's really what excited me about this role. Everyone says, why'd you choose Secretary of State? I own businesses with 3 employees and I have one with 200 employees, businesses of all sizes. The Secretary of State, like you said, is literally the front door for any business that wants to set up shop in West Virginia to get your LLC or set up as your corporation, to get your license to conduct business. You go through the Secretary of State's office. And it shouldn't be that hard to go and set up a business, but we need to be more user-friendly. The website is it's all over the world. You need to have consistency. The last thing a business wants is to go out and change the rules every year. You need to have consistency and ease of doing business in West Virginia. We go out and we got the pleasure of traveling with Senate President Blair and Roger Hanshaw, going around the whole country to say, choose West Virginia and why it's important to do business here. Well, the Secretary of State needs to be right there hand in hand and recruiting these businesses not only to come to West Virginia, but most importantly, what we forget about is those small businesses that are here. They're the backbone of our state. What are we doing to help them? We need to help them first. Let's help those businesses who have built up a great reputation here, but maybe they fall on hard times. So one of the things I want to do is I want to create a fund. I want to go lobby the legislature for some money to create a SOB fund, Save Our Business Fund. SOB, Save Our Business Fund. And so when they have times of need or they fall on hardships, I don't want them to close.
Right.
Those are good jobs. We're quick, as you know, to give out millions of dollars to these out-of-state companies and dangle carrots to come here. But what are we doing to help those businesses that are already here?
I think that's one of the biggest concerns I have as a legislator is organic business growth, not a transplant, so to speak. Right. I want to see that resident of West Virginia, start something, get it up and running. And you and I both know starting a business from scratch is probably one of the more difficult endeavors that anybody, no matter how good of a plan you have, the world is stacked against you.
I want to put business coaches in place. I want to put resources in place. And, the last thing we need is to, a company that's been here for 30, 40 years, they have 15 to 20 employees, and then they just go and close.
Right.
Because they needed help. I want to be able to raise the flag and say, hey, can we have a little assistance here? And this is what's going to happen. And maybe we can put them in touch with people who want to help save their business. There's a lot of angel investors out there that want to get in the business, and they want to invest in business, and they may believe in their business, but they just need some help because they don't have the resources. Anything could happen. Maybe they made a bad investment in a crop, or maybe the equipment failed on them, and they lost their tail. They shouldn't have to just close business because they had a tough time. So I think the Secretary of State's office can also, what do we have in our hand? We have our cell phones. We do business electronically. Everything is in the palm of your hands now. Right. One thing the Secretary of State's office needs to do is have a better app process. So if you're a business right there and you want to check the status, you want to re-register your business, you want to apply or whatever, you should be able to do it all from the palm of your hand. In your cell phone. And right now you got to go to the old-fashioned way, go to the website, fill out the forms, mail them in, this and that, get them sealed. Listen, you should be able to check the status. And I'll tell you what else I want. I want the most robust search. This might sound really simple. Google's got it figured out, but why can't the Secretary of State's office figure it out? Why can't we have a search and say, hey, I want to look for pizza places in Raleigh that serve pizza at 2 a.m. Type in your little search, and then boom, at the Secretary of State's office, it tells you what pizza places are available. So any business in the state of West Virginia who's registered, you should be able to search the Secretary of State's office and find everything you need to know about that business. How many employees they have, what their hours are, what their website is, how to do business with them. Maybe you're looking for a roofer. Or maybe you're looking for an online news outlet, around the state.
Or maybe you're checking to make sure your roofer is an
legit.
actual business.
Yeah, and maybe they actually, you don't know, because there's a lot of scammers out there. You don't know if this is a legit roofer. You're getting ready to give them a $5,000 deposit. You want to make sure they're registered with the state of West Virginia. They're verified. I want to put a check mark for verification, so when they go out there and they hire these contractors, I'm in the building material industry as well. You always want to feel safe and comfortable. Last thing you need is to give somebody a deposit and you never know if they're going to come back with your materials or not. So we want to do a verification. They could go to the Secretary of State's office. Logical idea. Go to the Secretary of State, the Chief Business Office of the state, to see if it's a legit business in the state of West Virginia.
Those being the major roles of the Secretary of State, the elections, the business registration, everything like that. You've done a good job of talking about that. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah, let's talk.
Or the donkey, for that matter. You and I, when we started together, of course, you were registered as a Democrat, I as a Republican, and of course, you switched parties. I think, the first thing, knowing you as a friend, one of the things that I'd like you to talk about is growing up. You turn 18, you register to vote. What's driving your decisions there?
That's great. That's a great question. I don't hide from it. I grew up in a conservative household. From my father, my grandfather, my mother, my grandmother could never vote for me in a primary. That's what's comical. We were joking about. Could never vote for me because she was registered Republican and she wouldn't switch her party affiliation. Even though I said, "Come on, Grandma, I'm running for office," she wouldn't switch it.
Right.
Stubborn, good old West Virginia. But West Virginia, they say this, West Virginia Democrats were different. They weren't your California Democrats. Right. They were West Virginia conservatives. I grew up being pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-coal, pro-business, pro-natural gas, pro-freedom, pro-people. And I just happened to be a registered Democrat. But I'll tell you what's funny, a lot of people don't know this. So actually, I wasn't registered Democrat at first. I was registered Republican. And my first election, I won in Mon County when it wasn't cool to be a Republican. I won my first election as a Republican when I was a 22-year-old student at WVU.
Wow.
As a Republican in that 5-member, big, huge Mon County district. And then what happened was I couldn't actually serve. I went all the way through. I couldn't serve because my first job took me out of state, had to move to Pittsburgh.
Oh,
so take a $40,000 a year job, move to Pittsburgh, or a little, I think then it was $15,000 house in Delaware.
I think back then it was like 5.
It might have been, it might have been 5. Might have been 5 or 8. It was something like ridiculous. I was like, I think I'll go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, and like so many West Virginians, I left the state to find my first job. But anyways, my values never changed. Right. So when I left the state, I lived in these big rural or big urban areas. I lived in Pittsburgh and Columbus and Toledo, and it was big Democratic areas. So I registered Democrat, moved back, long story short, moved to Charleston. But I wanted to get involved. And I go up there and I look in the legislature, and being as candid as I can with you, I looked in the legislature. There were 90 Democrats in the House of Delegates, and there were 10 Republicans.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, this is 20 years ago. And they said, I was recruited actually by both parties because they knew my conservative values and this and that. And they said, wait, there's a place in the Democratic Party back then. There was a place. They were called Blue Dog Democrats.
Right.
They were pro-gun, they were pro-coal, they were pro-gas, they were pro-energy, they were freedom, they loved to hunt. I mean, they were just good old West Virginians, but they just happened to be registered Democrats. So I said, you know what? All right, to be an effective leader, I'll join. That's what my constituents are. That's what they wanted. So I joined. I won various elections, but my values never changed.
Right.
Okay, so to answer your question, so why'd you switch? Like many West Virginians, I did switch my party affiliation. I'm not the first and I won't be the last. And here's why. I'll give you 3 good reasons why I switched, but there's a bunch. Obama, Hillary, and Biden.
Right.
They don't relate to me. They don't relate to the average West Virginian. It was ridiculous. And I felt like, as a Democrat elected official, I could go in there and be myself and I could vote and I could make things happen. But when I was first elected, I looked around, there was 35 called Blue Dog conservative Democrats.
Right.
When I left, 1.
It was you.
1.
Yeah.
It was me.
Yeah.
They were all gone. And those they left. The good, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-coal, they were gone. And they either switched their party affiliation, in all fairness, because there was a lot. And one thing I did too, Brandon, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back, but one thing I did, I stepped down. I resigned.
Yeah.
Most people, for political expediency, they switch their party affiliation and they stay elected.
Right.
And they stay elected, as a Republican. I could have done that, but I thought, that's not my job. My role was an elected official. And I mean this. I was elected as a Democrat.
Right.
And I returned that seat to the people that elected me.
Right.
And then they got to appoint a Democrat to that seat. And then I switched my party affiliation. So I did that. I was one of the few people in the state, maybe the only person that did that in the state. I mean, there was from Governor Justice to senators. I'm not going to call them out. There was numerous senators, numerous delegates, numerous commissioners. Hell, even Donald Trump at one time was a Democrat. If you want to be real about it, hell, he was a Democrat at one time.
Right.
But what happened is the National Democratic Party lost touch with everyday West Virginian. They did not relate to us. State party started following suit. They lost touch with the average day West Virginians and what it was about.
Well, and what I've observed is that it's not just that they lost touch, they consciously pushed the moderate element to the side, to the periphery, so that the focus could be on liberal social issues, which is what we're seeing down here in Raleigh County is that Democrat, if they are going to remain relevant. I mean, you remember when I got elected, I ran against a guy that Ricky, by all counts, should have been the first person to switch parties.
Oh yeah, he was very conservative.
Yeah, I mean,
there was a lot of those people.
There's probably not a whole lot of difference between what his voting record would have been and what mine has been. Yeah, there's probably not a whole lot of difference. You voted
for your district, regardless of your party affiliation.
Right.
And then those days were changed. And then I was getting chastised. I was getting ridiculed. Like I vote for my beliefs. I vote for my. You got to be able, as elected. I will tell you this: as elected official, you got to be able to go home, look yourself in the mirror, and feel good about that vote.
Right.
Okay. You got to live with that vote. I got over 22,000 votes. I have 11 years. I counted them, over 22,000 votes cast. Official votes cast.
Yep.
That doesn't mean 22,000 bills passed. That means votes, because a lot of times we vote. People don't know that 7, 8, 9 times on the same bill. Yeah. So over 22,000. And I bet you, I don't know what the percentage is, 95% of them we passed bipartisan. Yep. Republican and Democrats come together, pass that legislation.
Well, and I could say that, there's a few hot button issues out there that me knowing you and I would say just personally coming in 2019 and back then we were 58 to 42. Yeah. And we had actually lost seats from the 2016 election. We were up in the 60s and we lost seats, and I was one of the ones that was a freshman that had come in and defeated a Democrat at that point. And it was necessary at that point for the Republican Party and the Democrat Party to communicate effectively if we were going to get anything done in 19 and 20. And could you think of a more crucial time period in world history, so to speak, for us to do that? And you were one of the people that at the time, I was told by, I'm a freshman coming in, I'm told by my leadership and by the people that I'm looking up to that, hey, on the Democrat side, this one, he's probably going to switch parties to us. I mean that like of all 42, if anybody was going to switch parties, it was going to be you. Yeah. I mean, we were always told you would be the one coming over, and it was because of your history and your business acumen and everything else, and your voting record.
I have a record, and it stands for itself. Yeah, there's probably some votes out there. We all have votes. Say, hey, you hold your nose on, you vote, you throw a bone to one of your friends to get them to support you for something else, but. The bottom line is this: I don't change who I am, regardless of what your party affiliation. You got to be true to yourself. And if you don't feel good about yourself, you can't go home and look yourself in the mirror and your family, because you got to go to church. You got to go back to the little league. You got to see your friends, and they'll remind you. And then you can't like, oh gosh, this isn't worth it anymore. But you get up there, and we get under that dome, and we're in a bubble. We really are. We're in a bubble, and we think that it's so important. You're going to lose sleep over this bill, and you get back out here, and nobody even knew about it. Nobody knew what we fought about for 7, 8, 9 hours.
Oh, yeah.
But, you have to respect each other. And we have most of the people up there, they respect each other and where you've come from and your views and opinions. And I just love, from the time, I was one of those little nerds in 7th grade. I love being in student government. Right. I love playing basketball, and I love helping people. Well, I wasn't fast enough, I wasn't tall enough, and I couldn't shoot for darn. So I quit the basketball, my dream of going to the NBA, and I got involved in student government. Because I like being a part of a team. it was a different team. Might sound a little cliche, but I just love being a team, making things happen, roll up your sleeve. And at that, in 7th grade, I think you campaign on, I want to have pizza every Friday in the cafeteria or something like that. But it wasn't until I got to WVU where I ran for student body president. And I remember Cecil Underwood was governor at the time, the Republican governor with a Democratic legislature. And he really taught me, he's like, you got to be able to work with everybody, work across the aisle. And I think Senator Manchin was there at the time. He was Secretary of State, I believe, at the time. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I met President Bush. I met President Clinton. I met all these great leaders of the past, and they would come together and they'd say, listen, if you want to make a difference, you got to be true to yourself.
Right.
Stand up for your values. You're going to tick some people off along the way, and people aren't always going to agree with you. But at the end of the day, like I said again, and I'll say it over and over again, if you can look yourself in the mirror and feel good that you did the right thing, Brandon, I'll give you credit. You stood up. You stood your ground for the people that you represent. It may not have been that popular within your own party, within your own caucus, but you stood up for the people of this district first, and then for you. Because you had to be able to go home, look your wife in the eye, look your family in the eye, and feel good about your vote. And it may not always be the most popular thing, but if it's the right thing to do, and then you're the one that's elected at the end of the day, you've got to answer to the voters.
Well, and the moment they get tired of it, they move for it.
Yeah, they say, hey, we got to have term limits, this and that. No, there's term limits every 2 years in House of Delegates. Because you can vote that person in or out.
Exactly.
And you've done a great job. I commend you. You don't talk about yourself, but you've done a great job as well too. You've stayed yourself, true to yourself. But it's all about, you can't get anything done up here by yourself. You got to make friends.
Right.
Across the aisle, Democrats and Republicans. I was in the majority back in the day when Democrats were in control. I was in the minority. But the thing that was true is you had to go find people that you're most similar to, that have the similar views and can relate to you and your issues. You reached across the aisle to me on various issues we worked together on, and there were probably issues that we didn't agree on, but that was the beauty of it. But you can't get anything passed with just one vote. You got to get 51 votes, so you got to work together. And so when I was at the WVU, I was going to say my claim to fame up there was we had this little old club, this little organization. Add some humor to this. So WVU was playing basketball. The Coliseum got shut down. And there was asbestos. And they said, what the heck is going to happen? The students came to me. They said, Doug, I want to go to the away. I want to go to all these games. They played down here. They played in Beckley. They played in Charleston. And I think they played in Wheeling. I was in 99, 2000.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I went to the university president at Hardesty at the time and said, hey, I want to take all these students to these away games. I really wanted to take 20 of my closest friends to these away games. They said, well, you got to be a recognized student organization. And I said, all right. Well, as a junior in college, I created a little club, and it's called the Mountaineer Maniacs. So we started with 25 of my closest friends. I started with $100. I went around and raised $1,000, $100 here and there. Got $1,000. Got the university to pay for buses. They took all of us to all these games all around the state because we were diehard basketball fans. And it was called Mountaineer Maniacs. So today there's 70,000 members in that club. I can look back as a leader when I was in college, a little 22-year-old, full of energy and mountaineer spirit, just created a club. And the reason why I still do this, and the reason why I'm running is because I can look back at something that I worked together with people, brought people together, and accomplished something, and it still stood the test of time.
Right.
And that's what feels good about it. So like when you leave the legislature, you go on to bigger, better things, do other things, or I move on and do that. You look back at something that you passed or a piece of legislation that you had a part of, and it's still there, making a difference in people's lives. That's what excites me every day. And that's why I'm running for Secretary of State. I think we can do better. We can do more. And I think we need some energy. We need some fresh blood. You need someone that has a real life business experience that has been there through the tough times.
Right.
And it was sweating, like, how am I going to make payroll every 2 weeks during COVID? I mean, I've been there. I've never bankrupted a business. I've always paid my taxes. I try to do everything ethically, give everybody a chance to succeed. And in government so many times, I really think our government, Democrat or Republican control, we get in the way.
Yep.
We just get in the way. You know that. You say that all the time.
Oh, I
get out of the way.
You've watched me vote against my own party, telling them they're micromanaging.
Yes, they want to micromanage everything that they that they don't agree with, right? Just get out of the way.
Yeah.
And so one of the main reasons as Secretary of State, I want to get federal overreach off the table, regardless if it's a Democratic president or a Republican president. I want to keep the elections local, empower the county clerks here throughout West Virginia. Keep government local, to be honest with you. I'm a big fan of local government. I think we get the state, the national party out of the way and do our thing.
You bring up something really interesting there that, I've been thinking a whole lot about as a legislator and someone that's staying in the legislature and, carrying that torch on.
How long have you been there now?
I mean, so
6 years.
I've been there 6 years.
6 years,
going in the fourth term, and I look at what is the biggest thing that I see for West Virginia and my role in, you know, how this government, works effectively for the best interest of the people of West Virginia? I think you bring up a really good point, is maintaining our individual identity as a state, that regardless of who's in control of Congress, the courts, the presidency, the bureaucracy, it doesn't matter. What I've seen over the last 6 years is this monetary intervention to erode the identity of who we are as an individual
That's
people.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
And you bring up trying to keep the feds out of our business, and I kind of feel the same way, in a lot of different aspects. As we look at what's going on from an election standpoint, we're in a pretty big election year nationally right now. What type of policies, what type of things are you thinking of that, okay, do we reject money? Do we possibly go to court, over certain policies? What are you thinking?
Well, I think hey, if they're dumb enough to spend like sailors, out there, we'll take it and spend it wisely. But it's about investment. You got to invest in the future. Okay.
Right.
They can't buy control.
Right.
I don't want that. If they're going to give us money, then we have to abide by this set of rules and standards that they're pushing down. Give it back.
Right.
I don't want that. I say we know our people the best. We're West Virginians. We roll up our sleeves. We know our neighbors the best. Don't come in here from D.C. pretending like you know how the best way to mine our coal, to run our businesses, to fix our roads. This is our problem. We also need to give more hand-ups, not hand-outs.
Right.
What I mean by that? I'm all about helping people. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about helping people. I want to say that. But sometimes they become too reliant on government. I hate this. I can't find people to deliver newspapers, so to speak, because they say I make more money staying at home. I hate that. That's the last thing. No, we're encouraging people to not go to work. It should be the other way around. Okay?
Right.
Help them in a time of need. Give them help. Give them the tools and resources to get back on their feet and be successful. But don't give them a handout and take care of them the rest of their lives. And I think they become so dependent on that. And that's when I talk about federal stuff. Federal just needs to realize that we have a shortage here of workers in the state and in the country that want to get on go, because people say they make more money staying at home.
We fed the bears.
Right here.
We've absolutely fed the bears.
We're our worst enemy.
Yes.
So listen. Whether you're whatever industry you're in, give them the tools and resources. You think, they talk about the drug epidemic, talk about this. The best thing we can do to help people is give them a chance to feel good about themselves, succeed the West Virginia way, the American way, make some money for their family, put more monies in their pockets, so they feel good about themselves. Maybe the drug epidemic starts to go away a little bit if people have to get up and go to work every day and be accountable.
Right.
And take care of people. They're too reliant on, we make it too easy for them. I can't find people to deliver paper, can't find people to work on the roof in the construction industry, can't find people to put siding on. There's people in the restaurant, beverage industry. I don't know what people do for their money nowadays. They don't do anything, right?
Right.
Everybody I talk to, whether in the car industry or whatnot, everyone's saying, hey, I need workers, reliable workers. They'll show up, pass a drug test, and be there every day.
I want to talk about a couple issues that really have nothing to do with the Secretary of State's office, to be honest with you. You and I both know that, but we also know the West Virginia voter.
Yes.
And there's been folks out there, your opposition, that says that you're not pro-life and you're not pro-Second Amendment.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to speak for you.
Sure.
But let's talk about the abortion issue. For one, the abortion issue's dead. It's over.
It's over.
It's never coming up again. Roe versus Wade was overturned, and we passed probably one of the more restrictive abortion laws in the nation. And I was a heavy voice on the pro side of that legislation. But you've had a track record going back into the early 2000s of voting on pro-life, pro-choice issues that, Roe versus Wade was in effect at that point.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that history and talk to me about where you're at today.
That's great. No, I'd be happy to. Born and raised Christian Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, pro-life family. Been pro-life my whole life. Like I said, it's going and looking in the mirror. If I don't need some organization to give me to pick one candidate over the other to say you're more pro-life than that person. I know I'm pro-life and I believe in life and the sanctity of life, and I'll stand up. I passed and sponsored the unborn protection law before, the ultrasound bill that made people show them an ultrasound. I was one of the lead sponsors on that. I've been recognized nationally for some of my pro-life initiatives, but there's been a couple bills that I thought went a little too far personally. When you have personal experiences, sometimes it touches the way that you vote. And I've answered that question there for West Virginia to Life, God bless them, the same way every year. Sometimes they support me, and sometimes they don't. There's no rhyme or reason because they have to pick one,
Right.
And just because they didn't maybe endorse me this time didn't mean they didn't endorse me last time. So if you go back to my website, what I did, Brandon, this is something you do. I put all my endorsements for the last 12 years.
Right.
Every year you can see whether it was the Chamber of Commerce, Coal Association, Building Construction Trades, West Virginians for Life, NRA one year, NRA not the other year. Because there's been a couple bills. I'm pro Second Amendment, but I had a personal experience with the campus carry bill.
Right.
I had a close friend of mine that ended up really severely taking his life while I was right there in my fraternity house, and it touched me, and it was hard. That was a hard vote for me. West Virginians for Life. They have a survey every year that says, do you stand for life? I do. But they had exceptions, for rape and incest. Every year I answered, I think there should be exceptions for rape and incest. Some people agree with that. Some people, don't.
I think you remember, you go back to my, go back a year and a half or a year, and, politically, I'm in my own dogfight. You're in yours now.
Yeah.
It was over that issue.
It was over that issue.
It was over that issue 100%. I didn't believe in the exceptions, and I felt it necessary to make moves based upon that stance.
Yep.
So you could see, maybe you can't. Maybe it's just that us in the bubble are that concerned about it.
Yeah, it's the
bubble. And the rest of the general public is, hey, I'm generally pro-life.
Yeah.
Now, the shades of that me and you have to get into.
So that's the weeds that the average person walking down the street doesn't have to get into.
They're like, what in the world are y'all talking about?
Are you pro-life? The answer for them is yes or no.
Yeah.
Then what if you have 20 different amendments or 20 different versions, And what if you can give a situation where you could be the most pro-life person ever, but maybe they had a sister or a daughter or somebody that was personally touched, and it came between a life or death situation for them. And so you just don't know.
Right.
And so as those 100 legislatures that are up inside the bubble, it's unfortunate that it's not black and white.
Yeah.
People are going to say it is, and you'll maybe say it is. People say it's black.
I'm going to say it is.
But sometimes it's not.
Right.
Sometimes it's not, and it's all the way that people look at it. For every single bill, I'm not just saying the pro-life bill, every single bill. Every single bill, it's not as easy as some people think that it is. Because, better than anybody, people lose sleep over bills. People take walks. People don't vote. But you and I have never taken a walk.
No.
We always take the tough vote, and you deal with the consequences. And like I said, I got 22,000 votes up there. If people want to judge me on 1 or 2 votes, that's fine. But as Secretary of State, I'll never have to vote in the legislature again.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. It's like, okay, there's nobody in West Virginia going to abort your baby.
Right.
There ain't nobody going to take your gun.
It's over.
And even if there was, the Secretary of State didn't have anything
nothing
to do with it.
So those type of issues, the Secretary of State's office are really, I guess, it doesn't. That Secretary of State can't impact those votes in the legislature, but they can impact money that's allocated to help keep our elections secure. They can allocate how many resources we have to make the office more user-friendly and stuff like that. But, I think people look at the character of a person, they look back at their background, they want another track record. Listen, I got 11 years. I've made some mistakes. There's some votes I wish I could take back and change, And I look at the campus carry. I see both sides of that now. Maybe I was caught up in the emotion side of it. Now I think I would have voted differently. I think it's about freedom.
Even with 80 some odd Republicans in the room, it
didn't matter.
It was in the 60s.
It did. The vote was it was an emotional vote for people.
It was a long debate.
It was a long debate. We did it for hours, and it's not as easy as people think. Just going up there. I don't want anybody taking our guns away. I think I'll stand up. I know we need to stand up for our Second Amendment right. That's federal overreach. We don't need anybody in D.C. telling us what to do with our
And
guns.
you voted for what I lead sponsored, which was the Anti-Commandeering Act.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a commendation on the wall right in there from the West Virginia CDL over the Anti-Commandeering Act. It's saying if this federal law or rule is
it wasn't. It couldn't
if
be
it's
enacted
not
here,
West
right?
Virginia law, then you can't co-opt our law enforcement.
Going back to home rule, West Virginia. And here's the funny part: here's the best of people. You go out, you feel good about that vote, Brandon. You got 100 people say, "Way to go, Brandon!" There's always going to be one person that didn't agree with you. They're going to find you. They're just going to read you the right act. They're like, "Man," and so you can't make everybody happy.
You really can't.
You can't. But you just got to do your best. And I am who I am. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. I've made personal mistakes and sacrifices. But you put yourself out there as an elected official. You are public scrutiny 101. You get everything. From what type of shoes you wear to what type of car you drive. People actually ask me what type of car I drove to see if I was a good enough Republican or not based on what type of car I drove. I said, I got a Chevy Silverado out there, 258,000 miles on it. That's a gas guzzler. If that's my test that I have to pass, it's comical sometimes, and it's unfortunate. We live in a society now that sometimes that's all they do is, what's that labeling by your name? They don't get a chance to really know you. Or if it's a test of who's been a lifelong, hardcore, true and true blue or true and true red, you know. That's unfortunate, because I think the voters should get a chance to go out and meet the people, ask the tough questions, get to know them and see if they feel good enough right now in this present time. There's baseball teams that I've switched to. I like the Minnesota Twins at time. I used to like the Reds, and they've been terrible. I like the Pirates now. I've switched my affiliation based on the times. So people can change.
Right.
Like many West Virginians, I am true to my values. Good West Virginia conservative. And I think at the end of the day, Brandon, you know better than this, you have your far right 15% extreme, your far left extreme, and that other 70% are just good old-fashioned West Virginians that believe in giving people the opportunity to live wild and wonderful and free. They just want a chance to succeed.
Right. Well, and I think that's ultimately the goal of you and I both as we progress through different avenues of politics at this point, is ensuring that the identity and values of West Virginia remains, because it was so good to us growing up that what our parents imparted to us, those values that your dad imparted to you, my dad imparted to me.
They instilled that work ethic in us.
Right, and we get to pass that on to our kids, and then hopefully we get to watch our kids pass that on to theirs. And by and large, if you look at those West Virginia values, it's hard work, it's scrutiny, it's adhering to the Word of God, it's walking the line, it's making tough decisions, and it's it's a hard scrabble life growing up in these hills. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's what most voters in West Virginia are looking for is, will this individual make sure that my values make it to the next generation?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's all we have left to give.
We can't sit back and let social media control everything. We can't let what people read on Facebook and all this fake news and everything that's out there. You got to do your best. You got to educate the people, but they got to want to be educated too. They have to take a little bit of accountability. Get out there, know the person they're voting for, know how they can go out and be successful. Take a little accountability. I don't want to sell like cliche or government thing, but I love West Virginia.
Yeah,
you love West Virginia. You and I, we have a chance. We can live anywhere in the country we want to. We've been blessed, and our parents have instilled that. But we chose here.
Yeah.
I don't want to run for office in another state.
No.
I lived in Pennsylvania and Ohio. Heck, I lived in Myrtle Beach, And people say, why'd you move back from Myrtle Beach? I was like, it's a great place to visit. But I wanted to raise, like you, my family here.
Yeah.
And my kids here. And play Little League with them and know the people. Because at the end of the day, we do know our neighbors.
Yeah.
We do bump into restaurants and random gas stations, and people actually look you in the eye and say hi to you here.
Yeah.
Live in Pittsburgh. Tell me if a person in the convenience store even looks you in the eye and gives you your change back. They probably have their AirPods on and not even paying attention to you. Right. That's what the beauty of West Virginia is. We care. When there's a disaster, or there's a storm or there's a catastrophe or something, we got each other's back.
Yeah. When
West Virginians are down on their luck, we help out. We help out. And that's why I think people serve. You and I go through all this public scrutiny all the time because we care.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's worth it to me. It's worth it to put myself out there, be scrutinized, every little thing, because I feel like if I can make a difference in just one person's life, that's what I live for. I feel good about myself. It's not about how much money you make or what you do at the end of the day. It's about what you did to affect and change someone else's life. And that's why I'm running.
I want to talk, last thing.
I know you got a lot more hard questions in there.
I want to talk about Southern West Virginia, because that's where we're at right now. We're sitting in Beckley.
Yep.
You're in my home.
This is your town.
You're in my home.
A lot of stuff going on down here.
Yeah.
I love Beckley.
You get past the Memorial Tunnel. It's. But talking about Southern West Virginia and talking about some of the economic issues that we're facing, you and I have watched the Economic Development Authority be elevated to a cabinet secretary position, unelected. You've seen a lot of investment go into the northern part of the state.
We have.
And I'll be the first person to say that as a business owner should be the one determining where they're going to make their investment. And let's just be frank, navigable river for a manufacturer is a pretty big deal, especially when it's the Ohio.
Yeah.
So I can understand a lot of that. We have challenges down here. Our river, the second oldest river in the world, is not navigable unless by canoe, kayak, or raft, and it's more tourism.
It makes it tough. Yeah.
But we do have a very good road system. We do have a lot of ingenuity. We have an engineering school right here in Beckley. We have a lot of assets right here in Southern West Virginia. From your standpoint, I'm not talking about individual policies or anything like that. The outlook for Southern West Virginia over the next 10 to 20 years, what moves do you see us needing? What do we need to do as a government and as a society in Southern West Virginia to see the Welches of the world and the Beckleys and the Mabscotts and the Sophias and the Coal Cities, really, and I'm not saying grow population. I think we get into a place where we get worried about our population. The population of Wyoming is a third of what ours is, but the median income and average income is a lot higher.
Yep.
I'm not concerned as much about population as I am quality of life. What do we do to raise that quality of life down here?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. You got people who got to feel good about themselves again. You got to restore hope down here. When they see all these press releases over and over again, stuff happening in the northern panhandle or eastern panhandle, they get depressed. They say, what about Southern West Virginia? Does it stop at Charleston? It can't stop at Charleston. It's got to come down here. And so when we're giving out these budget surpluses, we're famous for giving out all these tax dollars to seven, luring different companies here. Say, no, you're only going to receive that if you locate in Southern West Virginia.
Right.
Okay, we got the same roads. We got a great quality of life. It's very affordable. And I'll tell you what we need to do. The amusement factor, the fun factor, the wow factor, the adventure factor in Southern West Virginia is unheard of. From skiing to ATVs to everything from the trails to whitewater rafting. Yeah. I mean, if you're not a younger professional that can live anywhere in the country and work remotely, maybe the jobs doesn't have to be here, but we just need to attract some of that next generation that's just looking for somewhere fun to live and affordable that they can be entertained year round. You think about it, we got something, a sport that they can do year round.
Right.
You can't get that anywhere. I want to be, at one point Colorado was that place. They were a destination for the remote workers. West Virginia could be that place.
Right.
West Virginia could be a place that attracts remote workers from all over the world. Come here. You're 5 hours from everywhere. Mm-hmm. Some places 3 hours. You get to Charlotte, you get to D.C., you get over to Nashville, you get certain places. You get to the big cities and get your fix in there. And you're a good gateway to the beach in the South too. Southern West Virginia just needs to be paid attention to. I don't think we're advertising it. I don't think we're marketing it. And I don't think we're dangling, we dangle carrots out there a lot to attract business here, but we ain't dangling any carrots for Southern West Virginia.
No.
That's got to stop and it's got to turn around. And you need a Secretary of State that you need somebody who's not going to forget about the South.
Right.
And you got to have friends down here. And you got to have loud voices like you, because you always speak up. And we got to keep you in there. You got to keep you in there. You got to keep doing it. You got Delegate Mannering does a great job too. But you got to keep people in Southern West Virginia fighting. But it is tough times. It's real. And people who aren't down here, who don't live it. I own some papers and stuff in Southern West Virginia, so I see it. we feel the effects.
Well, and that's what a lot of people don't know about you. I mean,
Yeah.
you own papers not just from Charleston, but all the way through southern West Virginia and southwest Virginia.
Williamson, one of the hardest hit areas in the state of West Virginia. Williamson
Logan
paper,
Banner.
Logan Banner,
Yeah.
Cole Valley News in Boone County,
Yeah.
and imagine Wayne County. I mean, Wayne County's in the same boat. They're sitting right there on the border.
Right.
They have some water access, but they're not getting a lot of attention. It's Mason County, it's Putnam County, it's all around Wayne. Wayne said the same thing. I spoke with them. What can we do to get some of that attention on us?
Or maybe it's just to get a Senate finance chairman. And
Yeah,
do I get rolling?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. No, exactly. I think you got to have people. Obviously, you know how it works. You got to have people that believe in that area too.
Yeah.
But also, you have to, when you're out there giving away West Virginia money, you got to say, hey, draw a line in the sand. This is the area of the state where this money can be used to redevelop, to enhance growth. Bring your project here. And it's not going to be in the Northern Panhandle. It's not going to be East Panhandle. It's going to be down here. And we think there's a good reason, a good quality of life, and a good story to tell down here. We just got to be a partner.
Absolutely.
Got to be a partner.
Well, hey, I want to thank you.
Hey, man.
Thank you for
No,
coming
this is
down
great.
and
Yeah, this
visiting
is
with me
great.
today.
I love the set here. I love the bear. Yeah, this is great.
It's probably weird for a lot of people to see us together, but if they didn't know, I mean, you've always been a good friend, and from a business standpoint, kind of a mentor and helping us out a whole lot with different decisions that we've made.
I just love people to be succeed. You guys are a success story on your own here. What you're doing here is the future. We have a lot to learn from you as well too. Lootpress is on the rise. It's continuing to grow. It's a different way of getting news out there to people. The bottom line is this: you're creating jobs. You're investing in Southern West Virginia.
Yeah.
You believe in Southern West Virginia. I believe in Southern West Virginia. I believe in the whole state, just like you. You wouldn't be serving.
Right.
Put yourself
Right.
out there. But you just need passionate people. You're passionate.
Yep.
If you're passionate about something, I think a little hard work and rolling up your sleeves, you're able to get through. But you have to have the passion. You can't just give up.
I think the biggest thing that we can do as leaders is develop an abundance mentality. For so long, we've had this Scotch-Irish scarcity mentality. We're herdsmen,
Yeah.
That's our lineage going back thousands of years, is the solitary herdsman that's got to defend himself on the hill. And we're in a different world. We're in a different economy now. And we have to learn that your success, if I can help your success come up and you can help my success come up, we're both going to be more successful in the end, and have that abundance mentality to where, we're not overprotective of scarce resources. There's plenty of resources. There's plenty of opportunity. And we've got to find people and put them in places in society, in government, in business, where they can promote that idea that the success of everyone is going to, rising tides raise all ships.
That's right. I think you got to work together. We can't rely on the national government and their feds to worry about little old West Virginia. We got to take care of ourselves.
That's right.
And when we can help each other succeed, the whole state's going to succeed, and then more people will catch on. You're growing. You started with 1 or 2 people. Now look at you. You guys keep growing, and I think your guys are a success story. You got to think differently, act differently, and not be afraid to take some chances.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we get along. We might differ on some opinions, but it's been a pleasure, Brandon. Thank you.
It's great. Thank you. Doug Skaff, runner for Secretary of State. I'm Brandon Steele, and thank you for watching Lootpress. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.